Buying your first home in Indianapolis, it's an exciting milestone to be sure, but there are some pitfalls along the way. Trust me, I've seen first-time homebuyers stumble over things that can cost them big time. From setting a budget that's way too tight to skipping a home inspection, there are pitfalls that are all too common. So if you're ready to avoid these rookie mistakes and make your home buying journey a lot smoother, stick around. In this video, I'm going to share the 5 biggest mistakes first-time homebuyers make and how you can avoid them. Let's get into it. If you're new here, I'm Brian. I'm a realtor here in the Indianapolis area, helping first-time homebuyers avoid big mistakes. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up when you find something in this video that you really like, and please leave me a comment and share this video with others so we can spread the word. Number 1 on my list of mistakes is not having a realistic budget. Oftentimes, I'll get a phone call from a buyer, often first-time home buyers, who just kind of make up a number. You know, they put stuff into Zillow, they put down how much maybe they're paying in rent right now, which maybe Zillow can translate into a reasonable mortgage. But honestly, there's way more to it than that. I encourage all my buyers, first-time home buyers especially, to talk to a lender first. The lender will go through their credit report, will look at their employment history, will look at their income history, and determine, based on a lot of financial information, what their pre-approval amount is. That is your budget. That's the amount that you are pre-approved for on the loan to purchase your house. Doesn't matter what Zillow says or Realtor.com says. It's all about what a lender is willing to loan you to purchase that house. Now, one thing to keep in mind with that is sometimes lenders just give you a number and okay, this is your max amount that you can spend on the house. They may or may not take into account that you actually want to do things when you live in the house. You want to have money for renovations. You want to be able to go out to dinner every now and then, maybe take a vacation, maybe buy some stuff. So you don't necessarily want to go with that highest dollar amount that the lender gives you on your pre-approval. When they give you that pre-approval amount, the important piece of that is to determine what's the monthly payment going to be on that when the approval finally goes through. That is what you have to live with. That's going to include your taxes, your insurance, and potentially PMI if you wind up having that for your loan, which is a different video altogether. But that monthly payment is the important factor. Because if you can afford to pay that, then you're good. But if you think that's too high because that's stretching your budget, that's pretty much all the money you make in a given month, you're going to want to look at that and go, all right, well, I would like for this payment to be lower. Have that conversation with your lender about, okay, what does my top of the line budget look like for a house if I only want to pay this much a month? That's important before you start to go shopping for a house, because one of the saddest things is for someone to tell me that they want to go look at a house. I too am excited. I take them over to the house to look around, and then they realize they can't afford that house, and now they've fallen in love with the house, and now disappointment sets in, and it kind of puts a damper on the whole real estate purchasing process. So number 2 on the list is not correcting credit report issues. When you apply for that pre-approval with your lender, they're going to pull your credit. Okay. With that, they're going to see what type of dings you have on your credit that may need to be fixed. Some of those things could be late payments. It could be money that you owe that you didn't even know existed. Perhaps it was an old bill that you just forgot about and they stopped sending you letters in the mail. And that's been sitting there for a while and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot about, completely about that. So whatever comes up on that credit report, it's important that you get those things fixed. Getting them fixed will actually improve your credit score overall. When you have a higher credit score, you likely are going to get approved for a higher amount of money. So it can maximize your budget by getting those things corrected on your credit report that show up as dings. A good lender is going to give you suggestions on what you can do to make your credit report better, whether it's paying off certain loans, whether it's clearing up old debts that are now in collections perhaps, Maybe, and unfortunately this is true in some cases, they tell you that you're going to have to wait 6 months before you can start shopping for a house because you have so much owed money that you have to get those things brought down and cleared up before you get that final pre-approval. So again, having that conversation with the lender is super important, and then take the action steps that they give you to improve your credit report. Number 3, and this one is tough, leading with emotions. Buying a house is an emotional process for the buyer. It's an emotional process for the seller as well. Think about it from the seller standpoint. They're selling a house that they may have lived in for a long time. Maybe their kids grew up in that house and now they're going to be upsizing into something larger, but they have all these memories of, their kids' first steps and this and that. So it's an emotional process for them, and now they're trying to go buy a house too. So emotions get involved. That's, by the way, why having a realtor is a good idea, because for them it's a business decision. As a realtor, certainly I want my clients to get the house that they want, and I do have emotions involved, but when it all comes down to it, it's not my house and not my money. So I tend to leave emotions out of it as much as I can. As a buyer, and this is easy for me to say, you have to leave your emotions out of it, because you can walk into a house, you can fall in love with the house, you can be willing to pay any amount to get the house that you fell in love with, and then be super disappointed when you don't get that house. Either you don't qualify for the loan, or somebody else comes in with another offer and there are competing offers and yours is not the one that's chosen. That can totally sour the process. And unfortunately, I've seen that with clients where we're in a multiple offer situation. They made an offer that was really good, it was the best they could do, and they don't get their offer accepted, and then disappointment sets in, and they're just kind of like not really wanting to go see other houses. And it starts to make them second guess whether or not this was really a good idea altogether. Try not to get overly emotional about the home buying process. After all, it is a building that you're buying. You don't own it yet. You have fallen in love with the looks, the aesthetic of the house, potentially fallen in love with the fact that you can afford it and the payments are going to be good. But once you are the homeowner, things can go bad in a house that you love. So you don't want to be too emotional about the process, because there can be stumbling blocks and disappointments along the way, and you have to be able to recover from those. Number 4 is avoid making big financial decisions during the home buying process. And this is especially true if you are getting a loan to buy a house. If you're in the likely case that you are getting a loan for the house, you have to be very careful with your finances during the buying process. Unfortunately, some people get really excited about good deals that come along to them while they're going through the home buying process. So they're under contract to purchase a house. The lender is now doing all the background stuff into your finances and making sure that you don't owe more than they think you do, and that you haven't, unfortunately gone out and purchased something that can screw it up. One of the big factors in the loan process is called debt to income ratio. It's the ratio of the debt that you have to the income that you bring in. If during the home buying process you go out and create more debt for yourself, whether that is running things up on a credit card, potentially, heaven forbid, going out and opening a new credit card just so you can buy something new, that creates more debt on top of the debt that you already had. Your income probably hasn't gone up significantly unless you got a big raise or a new promotion, something like that. But in the unlikely event that those things happen, now you have more debt, but no more income. So the ratio between those two things has grown, makes you less likely of a candidate to be approved for the loan that you were originally pre-approved for. And unfortunately, what can happen is before you get to closing, you are no longer approved for that loan and your deal can fall apart. Talk about disappointment. You were under contract to buy a house and now you can't afford it because you went out and bought new furniture for a house that you didn't own yet. You went out and bought a new car and financed it because you were excited. And now you can't afford the house that you're under contract for. Any financial decisions along the path between acceptance of your offer and closing, you better run them by your lender before you pull the trigger, before you sign any documents, because you don't want to run the risk of screwing it up. Before I get to number 5, I'd like to remind you to please hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment. Anything you might know about being a first-time home buyer that we can share with others, feel free to leave me a comment on that. I would appreciate it. All right, here's number 5. And before I hit that, know that there's going to be a bonus one I'm going to add at the end. So stick around after number 5. Number 5 is don't waive the home inspection. There isn't anyone I would recommend first-time homebuyer wise to waive an inspection. Now, unfortunately, there are some realtors who may encourage buyers to waive a home inspection on a home that's really good. Whether it's, maybe you're buying a brand new house, new construction, no need for an inspection there. Wrong. Maybe it's a home that was just built in the last 1, 2 to 5 years. So it's still relatively new, it's in good condition, they fixed up a number of things, and it appears, because a home that's that new is going to appear to be really nice and in good condition. Don't waive the home inspection. Waiving home inspections was popular several years ago when we were doing what I call pandemic real estate. Homes were flying off the shelves, they were going under contract within hours, worst case scenario within just a day or two, and in order to be competitive in those situations, buyers were waiving inspections because it was one of those things that people were doing to try and offer a competitive offer. Okay, you only have so much money you can offer in a purchase agreement. You have your pre-approval, that's all you can do. So how can you kind of juice that up and make your offer better than someone else's? A popular thing was to waive the inspection. Terrible idea. I recommend inspections for brand new builds that no one has ever lived in, because you never know what you don't know. Yes, you can see as you walk through the house that the condition of the house may be beautiful. People have lived in it, they've taken great care of it, they repainted, they have, maybe new furniture, new flooring. There's lots of things that can, on the surface, be fantastic. It's the things that you don't see when you do a walkthrough that can come back to haunt you. Do you go into an attic as a first-time home buyer? Very unlikely. Do you go into a crawl space, climb underneath the house and check out things down there when you're a first-time or even a returning home buyer? Most likely not. Those are things that an inspector does. Things that can show up in attics, in crawl spaces, in furnaces or air conditioning units, in the plumbing. Unless you may be an expert in those areas, how do you know if those things are working correctly just because you see it and it looks like it's fine? You don't. I wouldn't even recommend that a contractor, someone who builds houses on a regular basis, I don't recommend that they waive an inspection either. Now, I'll be honest with you, I might be a little bit more lenient with that and maybe not put up a fight on it, but even those people can overlook something because emotions get involved and they've fallen in love with the house and they just think, oh, I can fix whatever it is. Well, the fixing whatever it is can be super expensive. If you're not a contractor, do you know things about plumbing, roofing, attic repair, getting rid of mold? There are so many things that can come up in an inspection that you don't see on the surface that, again, can come back to haunt you. So I don't recommend that anybody waives an inspection. All right, here is the bonus one, and this is actually after you've purchased the house. So one of the things that a lot of first-time homebuyers don't consider in the process is the cost of actually owning a house. Most likely, if you're a first-time homebuyer, you're renting somewhere, potentially living with your parents, I suppose. But either way, there's probably someone either at your parents' house or at the apartment complex or wherever it is that you're renting that's in charge of fixing things. If the toilet is leaking, it doesn't work anymore, well, you tell your parents and they might call in a plumber. Or you call the landlord sends in a plumber, and all of that is taken care of by the landlord because that's part of the contract that you have when you're leasing a place from somebody else who owns it. Well, you may not have any idea what the cost of that kind of thing is when you are a renter. When you own the house, that's now your responsibility. So either you're going to have to buy things with multiple trips to Lowe's or Menards to get things fixed, or you're going to have to call in a professional to come and do the work for you. Those things aren't free. Making that phone call like you do to your landlord and someone comes to fix it, when you're the homeowner, that ain't free. So there are many costs that go into owning the home beyond just your mortgage. Obviously, you have utilities, you've got basic upkeep, repair, and maintenance on the house, or upgrades that you want to make to the house that are all going to cost money. Perhaps there's the exterior things that you don't think about, especially if you buy a house in the winter. You're going to need a lawnmower most likely to go out and cut that grass, or prune the bushes or anything like that. If you've been renting, you probably don't have those supplies, and now you have to go and purchase those things. All of those costs can add up. So what you should do, if possible, is to kind of set aside some money for when you are the homeowner, so that after you close on the house and you move in, you have some money set aside to start making those renovations, or potentially paying for repairs you didn't know you were going to have to do before you bought the house. Buying a home is one of the biggest investments you're going to ever make. So take your time, do your research, and make sure that you're making a decision that's right for you. If you found this video helpful, give me a thumbs up and drop me a comment. And if you have any mistakes that you're worried about maybe I didn't address here, feel free to leave me a comment as well. I'm here to help. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.